Is the Microsoft Activision buyout dead? Well, it just might be, according to some sources familiar with the matter. We're going to talk about that today, everything that's being reported as of now, and what it might mean for Microsoft and Activision going forward. Hey, I'm LittleBobby here with 59 Gaming Direct, and today we're going to be talking about this new article from Politico.com about the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, possibly blocking the Microsoft Activision buyout. But before we get into the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Make sure you comment down below what you think of this news, and leave a dislike if you do not enjoy this video. And please let us know in the comments what we can do better for next time. Let's get right into this article from Politico.com titled "Feds Likely to Challenge Microsoft's $69 billion Activision Takeover." The article starts by saying the Federal Trade Commission is likely to file an antitrust lawsuit to block Microsoft's $69 billion takeover of video game giant Activision Blizzard, maker of the hit games Call of Duty and Candy Crush, according to 3 people with knowledge of the matter. So we're seeing here the Politico is getting an inside scoop from people, probably from within the FTC itself, stating that the FTC is looking to keep Microsoft from establishing or taking steps to establish a monopoly in the video game industry. And this is absolutely huge news because the narrative so far has been that only European companies are having an issue with this. We have seen and heard news of the CMA taking issue and taking the investigation to phase 2, meaning they were going to really be looking at and considering all of the future implications for the purchase from Microsoft and how it could impact the future landscape of gaming. This has received a lot of pushback from Xbox fans who have been very adamant about saying that, hey, Sony's already the leader, Xbox deserves a chance to catch up. And the narrative has been that once the American authorities allow the deal to go through, it's very likely that the European authorities will push it through as well to be on the same base as the American regulators. But now that we're seeing that the American regulators may in fact also challenge this deal, there's going to be a big difference in how this narrative plays out for Microsoft. Microsoft has actively been pitching themselves as kind of a white knight for gamers. They say, hey, Game Pass is the best deal anyone's going to get. And I can't deny that. If you look at getting an Xbox Series S and then getting Game Pass Ultimate, you're looking at maybe a $300 investment to get set up for at least 3 months of that Game Pass Ultimate and have access to hundreds and hundreds of games. But the problem lies in the fact that once Microsoft has made a move as big as buying out Activision, it's going to be really hard to tell them that they can't buy another publisher in the future, no matter how big it is. Activision is the #1 third-party publisher on the planet. They have some of the biggest franchises that have ever existed, including Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, and especially Candy Crush. If you think Call of Duty is a huge franchise, and there is no disputing that it is in the console space, Candy Crush puts that to shame with the amount of revenue that it brings in every year. So regulators are understandably worried that Microsoft, a tech giant that has been known in the past to have antitrust suits brought against it for trying to consolidate too much power in the home computing space, is now looking like they're trying to consolidate too much power in the home console video game entertainment space. Now, the article does go on to say a lawsuit challenging the deal is not guaranteed, and the FTC's 4 commissioners have yet to vote out a complaint or meet with lawyers for the companies, 2 of the people said. However, the FTC staff reviewing the deal are skeptical of the company's arguments, those people said. But again, this does raise concern that the fact that Microsoft is trying to buy their way into market share with the money from their computing division, because remember, Xbox has not really ever turned a profit. And we know this because while Phil Spencer said that Game Pass is turning a profit, remember that the Xbox consoles are losing between $100 to $200 for every console sold. The thing about this antitrust is that Microsoft can absorb these losses because it's a $2 trillion company. But the Xbox division is a net negative for the company, so they're using their computing division to subsidize and break into another industry, which is the absolute definition of monopolistic behavior. And the article goes on to say that is one of the FTC's biggest issues. They say central to the FTC's concerns is whether acquiring Activision would give Microsoft an unfair boost in the video game market. Microsoft's Xbox is #3 to the industry-leading Sony Interactive Entertainment and its PlayStation console. Sony, however, has emerged as the deal's primary opponent, telling the FTC and regulators in other countries that if Microsoft made hit games like Call of Duty exclusive to its platforms, Sony would be significantly disadvantaged. And whether you want to admit it or not, that's absolutely true. How many gamers out there do you know that literally only play Call of Duty? I have had so many friends and roommates over the years who they might buy one or two other games a year, but really the only thing they're doing for 90% of their gaming time is playing Call of Duty. Call of Duty has had a grip on gamers for just about 20 years now, and it's hard to see that grip being shaken off, especially after Modern Warfare 2 just broke records of being one of the biggest entertainment releases of all time. And one has to assume that Microsoft is going to continue further down the road, keeping in line with releasing a budget-friendly console, which again is not a bad move, but when you couple that with owning one of the most important IPs in the market and saying, hey, you can get this cheaper and only on this one that's cheap or our better one if you want the better experience, it's hard to see how Sony or anyone else has any chance to compete with that. The article goes on to state Microsoft said it has repeatedly promised to keep Call of Duty available on Sony's PlayStation, and furthermore, the game is not the must-have Sony says it is. Additionally, Microsoft notes the game is not currently available on any subscription service, and adding it to the Xbox service in the future would not harm Sony. Now, aside from the problems that we just talked about, how many gamers are absolutely the ones to switch consoles and only play wherever Call of Duty is, we also know that Microsoft has already, in their acquisition spree, lied about keeping games multi-platform. When they acquired Bethesda, they said that PlayStation owners didn't have to worry and that future Bethesda titles would be available on Sony consoles as well. And then right after the deal closed, they said that all Bethesda titles moving forward would be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. Now, personally, I'm not a huge Bethesda fan. I've played some of the games and enjoyed them, but I don't need them personally. But big games like Starfield and other upcoming titles like Elder Scrolls 6, I'll be able to play on my PC, but not everyone has that ability. So Microsoft has already effectively proven that their strategy is to get a buyout to close no matter what, and then make sure that they lock that up and do not make it available to PlayStation players. And look, I am fine with exclusives. I have no problems with exclusives. I've never said there is an issue with Halo being exclusive or Gears of War or any of the other Xbox exclusives that have come out over the years like Fable. However, I think there needs to be some ground rules here because Xbox is really trying to just throw their money around and buy their way into market share instead of earning it. And I think that the FTC is seeing this as well, seeing that they're trying to undermine and basically outspend Sony to knock Sony down to where they cannot compete anymore. And once they do that, just like every other monopoly out there, they're going to start raising their prices. Think about Netflix and how Netflix kind of got a monopoly on the industry, slowly started raising their prices and tried to squeeze out any and all competition. And the only reason they have competition now is because big networks have started making their own streaming services, and they have just as much money, if not more, to throw around than Netflix, and they own a lot of the IP that Netflix was using anyway, so they just took their own IP back. The difference here being that Microsoft is not really the inventors of Call of Duty as an IP, or Overwatch, or Candy Crush. The article goes on to state the FTC's concerns, however, extend beyond Call of Duty, and investigators are trying to determine how Microsoft could leverage future unannounced titles to boost its gaming business, according to two people with knowledge of the review. And this is something I recently thought of. There was a big announcement just a few days ago that Microsoft offered Sony a 10-year deal in order to ensure that Call of Duty would continue coming to PlayStation consoles. However, there is no guarantee that Call of Duty will still be an IP under Microsoft in 10 years. They could retire Call of Duty as an IP and then take the exact studios, make a brand new shooter with a new name that's effectively Call of Duty, and then they owe PlayStation nothing because technically it's not the same IP, and that lets them get out of their contract. Even if there is a breach of contract suit, Microsoft can also just throw money at that problem, and then they have Sony right where they want them. Sony can no longer compete, and Microsoft has bought its way to being the top game publisher in the world. They have all the power, and then they can do whatever they want with pricing and with availability. We have talked in great length on this channel about how we feel about this Activision Microsoft merger. Me in particular, I am not a fan of this. I don't think Sony should buy Activision either. I don't think anyone should own Activision. I think if you want to buy Call of Duty as an IP, I think that would even be okay. But getting all of Activision is problematic for so many reasons. And personally, I think that the FTC is absolutely absolutely right to be investigating and possibly bringing a suit into this. And I think that the UK and the European regulators are also right into looking into this, because it does bring huge antitrust concerns to the gaming industry that have not been there before. If Microsoft wants to earn the market share that they think they deserve, then I'm all for that. They have tons and tons of studios. They've purchased so many small and large studios in the past few years. They have more than enough ammunition to start making games that will bring them up to compete with Sony. The difference between Sony and Microsoft, from what I can see, is that Microsoft does not manage their studios and they do not enable them to make great products. Look at 343 and Halo. Halo is one of the most beloved franchises of all time, and since Microsoft took over from Bungie and 343 took over the Halo franchise, Halo has been on a downward spiral and it is still not recovering. Halo Infinite's numbers, even with the winter update that brought Forge and brought multiplayer campaign, the game is still struggling to make any kind of comeback into the mainstream. And it's almost confirmed that this is because Microsoft places so many deadlines that must be met, and they replace their hardworking developers, and it causes chaos during the game development cycle. That's been a Microsoft practice for 20-25 years. And with the attitude that the game industry needs to be a machine for making money and not about creating a good product that both the developers can be proud of and the consumers can enjoy, Microsoft is going to continue to struggle, and they should not be allowed to purchase their way to being number one, in my opinion. But that's all we got for today. Hey, let us know what you think of this news down in the comments below. Do you think that the deal should go through? Do you think that the FTC and the CMA are right in investigating this and that the deal should not go through? Let us know down in the comments below. Again, my name is LittleBobby here with 59 Gaming Direct. We want to thank you so much for watching today, and we hope to see you soon.